It's time for today's travel and cruise industry news. With the latest from travel and cruises around the world, here's your host, Chillie Falls.
Good morning and welcome to Monday Travel and Cruise Industry News on this, the 22nd day of May, 2023, coming to you from Bedford County, Virginia, right near Lynchburg. We do have quite a few news. It's been a busy morning here, folks. Quite a few stories today. The top story, the lead story is a ferry collides with a cargo ship. Got some injuries. We got to look into a tropical weather update already. Get serious. And then some more in the weather world. Did Princess overbook too? Uber to Galveston, SpaceX to the ISS, new tenders for Norwegian, a Chinese-built ship named, and crew leave canceled in New York, and lots more here at 11 o'clock this morning on a really full show today, folks. Today is National Craft Distillery Day. You guys that have followed me for a while know that I'm not particularly a beer drinker. However, I will have one on occasions, usually at dinner with my brother-in-law. He drinks a beer almost every day, and once in a while I'll just be in the mood. But rarely and almost never on a cruise ship. However, since it is a craft distillery day, I mean, in this world, everybody now has a craft distillery in their town or city or wherever you live. Now just go visit one and have one of those fancy locally brewed beers to support National Craft Distillery Day. You can always access podcast listeners can always access the podcast for this broadcast via my blog, which is accessadventure.net, or wherever you get your podcast from. Just search for Travel and Cruise Industry News, and up pops the Fat Travel Guy. All the big hitters, they all have it. You just have to look for it. So if you watch on Stitcher or you watch on Pandora or iHeartRadio, just search for Travel and Cruise Industry News, and you'll get us. Podcast represents by far the largest segment of my audience today, and I am extremely grateful for that. And as always, if you're listening via the podcast and you ever want to hop over to the video feed for pictures or clips or interviews, you can always get a link in the description of the podcast to do just that. Always. Got a couple things that I handle this morning before I jump over to the news portion. First and foremost, we had just a phenomenal meeting Friday night on the first meet and greet for our December 2nd group cruise. Had a nice turnout. I have gotten from people that were on the show, I've gotten questions that have been asked that I can't answer. I have started a list right here. It has 3 questions on it right now that I didn't know the answers to, that I'm going to bring up with my meeting Wednesday with the Viva Voyages folks. I'll get those answers, and Friday night when we do that again, I'll have the answers for everybody. So if you missed out on it, we are, of course, talking about the NCL Escape hosted solo cruise on the 2nd of December. It's a 7-night Caribbean cruise. It goes to from Port Canaveral. So it's has a day at sea, then Cozumel, Georgetown, the Cayman Islands, Ocho Rios, and Jamaica, another day at sea. Great Stirrup Key in the Bahamas. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. And then back to Port Canaveral. Inside cabins are $12.57. These are solo prices, folks. $12.57. Balcony cabins are $16.18. The inside, you get a choice of 2 of the perks. The outside, you get all 4 perks. If you, let's say you get a balcony cabin, you have to add $152 for the beverage surcharges and gratuities, $10 for the dining service charges, or if you're in the balcony, $17.80. So let's say you're in the balcony, that's $152.62, $169 added on to that $1,500 number. Anyway, the full price with everything is less than $1,900. If you go directly, and this was pointed out by somebody from the audience Friday, they went to their normal travel agent and got him to price it a balcony cabin with no perks was $3,000 for solo. We're at less than $1,900 with all the perks. That's the number to call, 866-312-2314. And hopefully, now I have not heard if they're back with, if Norwegian got all this computer issues straightened up over the weekend. They were supposed to, because it was spitting out from the Norwegian, it was spitting out the wrong numbers. So obviously that had to be fixed. So they kind of put everybody on hold until the computer's fixed because, clearly we've got the number, we've got the contract. Their computers got to spit out the same thing. So anyway, that's coming up December 2nd for any of you solo folks out there. And it will be I'll be hosting it. We did the Norwegian Joy, Mr. Bucket List, and I co-hosted that one. So I'm going to be flying solo on the solo cruise on December 2nd. All right, my buddy Rochelle, man, she is in Egypt. And she says all 3 flights to get there were on time. She's staying at the former palace, and it is absolutely gorgeous. So, there's a lot of people in the world, but very few of them have traveled more than my friends JJ, Justin and Jarrett, and Rochelle over the last 18 months. I mean, for 12 months of that, 13 months of that, maybe 15 months of that, I was hanging with the big dogs pretty well. Well, I'm sliding a little behind schedule now with keeping up with the big dogs. But Rochelle has been, she's been to Europe 4 or 5 times. She's been to South America. I mean, it's just amazing what all she's done recently. Great to follow her. One of these days, I'm gonna hog tie her and get her to come on as a guest so we can chat. And then I did hear from Elizabeth on location over the weekend. She has such a tough life. This was balcony last night from her balcony. Another one of those just absolutely ugly Cozumel sunsets. That's Elizabeth on location. You guys all know I love her to death. So anyway, that wraps up the non-news portion, I think. Let's see, I did that. That yes, it does. All right, the top news story for today. Well, this is another kind of a rough one. At least it could have been a lot worse. By the way, folks, if you haven't also already done so, hit that thumbs up, smash that like button. Consider subscribing. This is your invitation. Doesn't cost anything. Helps the channel out tremendously. The bell notification will let you know when I go live or when a new video is up. All right, more than 24 people were injured Sunday when a ferry boat collided with a landing craft near Cebu Island, Philippines. The accident occurred about 2:45 p.m. as the fast ferry Saint Hudil was traveling from Leyte to Cebu port and collided with the LCT Poseidon 23 in the vicinity of the Mactan Channel. Following the collision, the Saint Hudil received assistance from a tugboat owned by the same company and docked at Cebu's Pier 1. All 208 passengers and crew disembarked from the ferry at that location. Some of the passengers sustained injuries and were transported to a nearby hospital. The master of the ferry informed the Philippine Coast Guard that a total of 25 individuals were injured, including those with minor injuries, although other news sources have reported lower casualty figures. The PCG suspects that the collision was caused by a steering malfunction and engine failure on board the Saint Hudil, which was a 1996 built ferry, so it's not that old. The ship owner, Supercat, released a statement mentioning their cooperation with the PCG and other relevant agencies in the ongoing investigation. In contrast, the LCT Poseidon 23, which had 17 trucks and 20 drivers on board, did not report any injuries. It returned to its port of origin in Mandoyui City for a damage assessment. In a statement, Supercat said that the Supercat management deeply apologized for the harm and inconvenience caused by the recent accident involving the Saint Hudil. Their primary concern now was to ensure that all those who sustained injuries were properly cared for. All right. A little collision. We have too many. There's been too many ferry stories this year. Not even this year, in the last couple months. There's been a lot of ferry accidents, ferry fires. I don't know. Maybe they need some better management, I guess. I don't know. All right. I'll be back with the next story and one I don't want to go into after this.
Do you have a bad back, bad hips, bad knees, or any other mobility issues? Think about Scootaround. For scooters, walkers, wheelchairs, even oxygen needs, delivered right to your cabin. Scootaround for all your mobility needs on your upcoming cruise.
And if you got any kind of mobility issues and you're traveling, contact Scootaround. Whether it's a cruise, whether it's a stay in a resort, a hotel. Now, they don't go everywhere, but they're increasing all the time. I know there's been a push on Europe stations recently. Of course, they're pretty good on cruise ports in the U.S., except for West Palm. All right. I don't want to talk about weather this early in the season. But yeah, folks, that's the National Hurricane Center with a disturbance down there in the Bahamas vicinity. The southwestern Atlantic showers and thunderstorms are poorly organized in association with a broad area of low pressure located a couple hundred miles northeast of the central Bahamas. Strong upper level winds and dry air are expected to prevent development while the system moves generally north by northeast at 5 to 10 miles an hour over the southwestern Atlantic during the next couple of days. You're only looking at 10% chance of further development over 48 hours, another 10% over the next 7 days. That in of itself is not all that bad. But even that we have to mention it this early in the season is, to me, is a little unnerving. At least it's not as bad as it's going to be in Guam. That, folks, is a picture of Guam, and see the little red X there in the middle of that map. These, of course, are the Marshall Islands, up and down. But right there in the center of Guam, Typhoon Maywar continues moving north-northwestward toward the Marianas. The local statement provides important information and recommendation actions in Guam, Rota, Tinian, and Saipan. A typhoon warning is in effect for Guam and Rota. Damaging winds of 39 miles an hour are expected Tuesday. Typhoon force winds of 74 miles an hour or greater are expected by early Wednesday. A tropical storm warning is in effect for Saipan and Tinian. Damaging winds of 39 miles an hour or greater expected by late Tuesday night. Typhoon watch remains in effect for Saipan and Tinian. Typhoon force winds of 74 or greater are possible Wednesday. Flood watch is in effect for Guam, Rota, Tinian, and Saipan. Basically, the center of this thing was still about 290 miles southeast of Guam. It's moving 7 miles an hour. So the kind of the frightening thing, folks, is that this is aimed for a direct hit of the center of Guam. Now, as we all know with storms, they can move. But right now, if it follows the path it's on, it's going to dissect the island of Guam. So that's going to be a massive, massive storm causing problems. And all the usual problems: rains, winds, flooding, mudslides. Guam's not flat. Possibly loss of life. So the next couple of days out there in the Pacific, that's going to be one to follow. All right. My next story has to do kind of with the weather. But first, a quick word from one of our network sponsors. All right. The next story has to deal with our friends over at Royal Caribbean. Yesterday's departure of Explorer of the Seas was not from Ravenna as originally planned. That's over there in Italy. Due to heavy flooding in Italy's Emilia-Romagna region, which includes northeastern Italy, home port, Royal Caribbean has reached out to booked guests. They reached out to book guests to notify them of a change. As a result of the flooding, Ravenna will not be prepared to safely embark guests. Instead, check-in will be at the Venezia terminal, Passaggria, and departe from Trieste, Italy. The email explained. These people found out about this like the day before they were supposed to go be in Ravenna. All guests are asked to arrive at Venezia Terminal, Passaggria, during the original check-in windows and no later than 4:30 p.m. They are offering transfers from one to the other. bus transfers, of course. But that's totally because of the flooding, that it's not safe for the people to get into Ravina. So Trieste is located about 100 miles driving distance. It's only 75 miles by boat, but they're not going to load people and luggage onto boats and unload them. They're just going to put them on buses and drive them. Or that's what was the plan was for yesterday. It did sail on time. Emilia-Romagna region has been inundated with catastrophically heavy rain in the past few days, with more than 20 rivers having overflowed. More than 280 landslides have been recorded. 13 people have died. Excuse me. Explorer of the Sea was the only cruise ship involved yesterday, but Thursday and Friday, Celebrity Constellation is scheduled in for an overnighter at Ravina. Could be difficult. We'll keep our eye on that one. All right. Princess Cruises reached out to guests aboard the Caribbean Princess that departed this weekend about a special cruise offer to urge travelers to shift the date to an alternate cruise. However, the offer was made 24 hours before departure. Sound familiar? The impacted sailing was a 7-night Eastern Caribbean cruise visiting Princess Key, San Juan, Grand Turk, and Dominican Republic. Limited availability offer is quite generous, 100% of the cruise fare as refundable onboard credit for the new alternate 7-night cruise with up to 2 years to rebook the sailing. Credit that is not spent during the new cruise would be refunded back to guests after the cruise ends. Same thing with airfare. If you booked airfare with Princess, it's all going to be fixed. The problem, folks, is it sounds just like the offers from Royal Caribbean. 24 hours before the cruise, and they're begging people to not go on the cruise. And now I'm not going to fuss at Princess as badly as I fussed at Royal Caribbean, because it's the first time to my knowledge it's happened with Princess. Okay, they could have a computer glitch as long as they fix it, and this doesn't become a regular thing like it did with Royal Caribbean, then I'll give them a little slack. But man, it certainly sounds like they're just copying Royal Caribbean. Not saying. Anyway, that's the Caribbean Princess. All right, we got some really good news for our friends down in Galveston. I haven't been to Galveston this year. I had planned on it, and then life got in the way. I don't have it scheduled. I don't have anything scheduled for the summer. There's still a possibility I could do something during the summer months, but I don't know yet. But anyway, here's the news story for Galveston. In an exciting development, the ride-hailing giant Uber has officially become a transportation option at the Port of Galveston cruise terminals. Now, I can tell you from experience, folks, one of the most difficult things about sailing for Galveston is that you fly into Houston and then getting transfers down. They're expensive and not necessarily timely. I thought they were expensive, which is why I ended up driving And I found a hotel there that I could leave my car, for the week that I was gone. I think it was I think it might have been a longer cruise than that. I don't know. I did a couple cruises from Galveston last year. I parked in the same place, but I drove. But anyway, Uber was not an option to take an Uber from Houston all the way to Galveston. Well, that's now changed. Galveston Wharves and Uber recently finalized an agreement extending the company services to the port, a move that will provide a new level of convenience for cruise ship passengers in one of the fastest growing ports in the United States. Until now, the port's transportation infrastructure included a mix of taxis, private shuttles, limousine, and various other passenger transport companies. The port says passengers would be directed to a designated pickup drop-off curbside area. That's kind of like they do it in Miami, as a matter of fact. You have to cross over one of the lanes of traffic to get to the Uber lane, and the Uber guys pull through there at the Miami airport, and it works fine unless you're in a wheelchair. Then it can be a little dicey. But anyway, that ensures the implementation of Uber services will be seamless and guest friendly, making it easy for guests to find their rides. They don't say anything specifically about the handicapped, but I mean, if I can get an Uber from Houston airport to the cruise port, and then I can always get a porter either at the airport or at the cruise port to go with me and my luggage across the traffic to the island for Uber, then I can do that without too much trouble. It's if I'm in the chair and have to do the suitcase and my computer bag and meds and all that stuff, my carry-on, that it does get a little dicey. Doable, but dicey. Anyway, the port also recently opened a new cruise terminal for Royal Caribbean because of Allure of the Seas, which can handle a guest capacity up to 6,700 guests. Galveston Wharves is not stopping there. A significant expansion, about $53 million, is underway at Cruise Terminal 25, which is the development and preparation for the arrival of the Carnival Jubilee, scheduled in December. Other ships home porting currently in Galveston are Carnival Dream, Carnival Vista, Voyager of the Seas, Carnival Breeze, Harmony of the Seas, Regal Princess, Norwegian Prima, and Disney Magic. One thing is clear, travel to and from the Port of Galveston just got easier, and by offering more transportation options for guests, the port can continue to grow. And it appears to be, at least, to be easier for those of us that fly into cruises to get there. Now, the one thing that they did not say in the press releases from the port or from Uber is how much it's going to cost. I'm sure there'll be a flat fee, a flat Uber fee from, what's the name of the airport? There's two airports in Houston. The one that's furthest away is the International Airport. I want to say it's George W. Bush Airport or something like that. So that would be the most expensive, but they didn't say how much. So that one we've got to find out yet. Okay, we got Uber now that can go to Galveston. How much is it going to cost to get from Houston to Galveston? Don't know that one yet. All right. Another story in the travel world. This specifically is for Hot Air Tom. A SpaceX rocket carrying a former NASA astronaut and 3 paying customers took off from Florida yesterday. The crew is embarking on a week-long stay aboard the International Space Station, marking the second all-private mission to the orbiting outpost. The SpaceX mission, in partnership with Axiom Space, is making history on a few fronts. With this voyage, SimStel researcher Rayana Bamawi became the first woman from Saudi Arabia to travel to space, and former NASA astronaut Peggy Whitson became the first woman to command a private spaceflight. Among the paying customers on board is John Schaffner, the American who made his fortune in the international telecom business, founded the hardware company Duraline Corp. Saudi Arabia also paid to fly 2 citizens, Bamawi and Ali Al Qarni, a fighter pilot in the Royal Saudi Air Force. So, Hot Air Tom, get in line. You can get a ticket next time and not have to try to jump ship. The tickets are, they're very reasonable. They're $14.95, and you have to guess where the period and commas go. That's for Hot Air Tom. $14.95. Where did that come from? Okay. At least Hot Air Tom is not on his way to Mars. He wanted to be. All right, this is pretty good news for my accessible community and for all you people that are big Norwegian fans. I've been to the private island, Great Stirrup Cay, 3 times. I have not been able to go ashore any of the 3 because the tenders did not have accessibility. I was turned away on the ship. Said, nope, sorry. Norwegian Cruise Line just welcomed 3 new 25-meter, that's 82 feet, cruise tenders into their Caribbean fleet, stationed at Great Stirrup Cay in the Bahamas. The tenders are designed by Incat Crowther and built by Singapore's Penguin Shipyard International. The tender will transport 352 passengers from the NCL cruise ships to the company's private island resort. The main deck seats 164 people. The upper deck accommodates 188 people. Working within pre-existing infrastructure restrictions was integral to the design, as was handicap accessibility. Each vessel contains 2 wheelchair accessible spaces on the main deck, a wheelchair lift to the upper deck, and a handicap accessible toilet. In order to utilize the existing tender docks at Great Stirrup Cay Resort, each vessel is equipped with main deck bow ramps for passenger boarding and disembarkation. So, when I am there on my December 2nd, I think is my next Norwegian cruise. Yes. When I host the group cruise on December 2nd, we go to Great Stirrup Cay. I'll be able to actually go ashore at Great Stirrup Cay finally. So that'll be pretty cool. Now, I don't know that I'll do any kind of excursion since it's my first time on shore there. I may just roll around like I've done at all the other islands that I've been able to get into. So we'll see. Not sure what I'll do yet. I'll start looking at the excursion to see what's available as well in case there's something really cool that I'd like to do. All right. Another story from over in Asia markets. Carnival Corporation's Chinese joint venture, CSSC Carnival Cruise Shipping, has revealed the name of its highly anticipated Chinese-built cruise ship, Adora Magic City. This announcement marks an exciting milestone in the cruise industry, as the vessel will be the world's first to incorporate advanced wireless communication technology, offering passengers a network experience comparable to being on land. The significance of the Adora Magic City extends beyond its name and technology. By embracing the 5G market within the cruise industry, CSSC Carnival Cruise Shipping aims to establish a new benchmark for digital communications in maritime travel. And finally, this morning, folks, and this is from some of my crew friends. Cruise Center received news regarding the crew shore leave in New York. A crew member who wishes to remain anonymous has informed the group that shore leave is currently not permitted in New York. At this time, we're working to gather more information to determine if the restriction applies to a specific cruise line or affects all cruise ships sailing to and from New York. An email has been circulated among crew members stating that the immediate effect, shore leave, has been canceled. According to the email, no crew members are permitted to disembark the ship until further notice. The decision has been made in response to a recent incident where a crew member deserted the ship in New York. The situation was prompted these stringent measures to be put in place by U.S. Customs and Border Protection. Just like we thought, folks. That one jackass that went AWOL, they're screwing everybody that's sailing out of New York as far as crew goes. That's sad. A lot of those guys have never, when these new ships are going to New York, a lot of those guys have never been to New York before. And we're looking forward to the chance to witness New York. So, all right, that ends the news portion of today's show. My goodness, it's been a full day of news. Let's see who's fussing at me in the chat room. Mike's with us. Good morning, Mike. Steve's here. Hey, Steve. Sonny's with us down in Mississippi. Yeah, there's Hot Air Tom. Hot Air Tom standing in line to buy that ticket. Everybody speaking back and forth. Katie's with us during her lunch hour. I misspoke about Katie the other day. I thought, didn't she leave for Martha's Vineyard? She doesn't leave until in the middle of June or something. It's my bad. I was just listening to Chillie's friend, JJ Cruz, about a couple wanting to opt out of tips that were in an inclusive package. Why do you think the package is sold that way? To keep UK cruisers from dropping the tips? They need to learn to go with the flow for our tipping culture. We go with theirs when visiting UK. Yeah, I've had people ask me about that. I have not changed my policy whatsoever. And yeah, do I like it that they've raised the prices several times? I mean, Norwegian's raised theirs twice in a couple months to $20 a day now. I'm not going to fight it. I'm going to pay it. Nor is it going to affect my cash tips that I do in addition to that. I'll still give my room steward the same amount of money that I always have. I will give my usually 2 waiters in the main dining room the same money I always have. And usually a couple bartenders that have done something special for me get a little tip as well. So yeah, I don't agree with, the UK policy of not tipping. Number one, I know how little, the cruise lines pay these guys that work so hard to make our lives wonderful on cruise ships. So they live on the tips. Many of them take their salary and send them home. And literally, they live on the tips. So that gives them money to go ashore. That gives them money to buy, the personal things like, toothbrush and toothpaste and stuff like that. So anyway, that's my feeling about it. I don't plan on changing. Kenneth's with us. Melissa's here out in Arizona. Getting close on you sailing, isn't it, my girl? Melissa, of course, I've sailed with her a couple times now. Wonderful. She and her husband are awesome. Are you guys staying an extra day in our Rome cruise or not? Yeah, 2 nights in Rome. Because, see, I have to go drink wine with the Pope, Kenneth. Hot Air Tom, he's going to stay downstairs and take a picture up there, up on the balcony when I'm drinking wine with the Pope. That's the plan. Yeah. 2 is the max for NCL diversion on the air unless you book the very expensive NCL program hotel that you can do 3. Okay. Emma Cruises. Hey, Em. Good to see ya. It's awesome. Always good to see Emma. Hot Air says, I use IHG points, so we'll be booking on the Intercontinental or Crown Plaza or Holiday Inn if one is nearby. Holiday Inn Express. They're getting everywhere. Hot Air says, welcome to Emma to the show today. Katie says hello to Emma. When are you getting more Captain Hudsons? I keep checking because I want to get one. Emily's with us. Hi, Em. Chillie, you will be missed on this JJ cruise. Yeah. At first, I didn't book it because of a whole other reason. And then, things just kind of fell in my lap on some personal issues here at home that I'm taking care of. I took care of some last week. I have a couple this week and one big one next week. And it's just, that's just totally, basically, it shut down my summer. I moved my Alaska cruise got moved to August. So I'm actually doing back-to-backs to Alaska in August. So one, it saves me one flight across the country, which I like that. I'll be doing Nordam up from Vancouver to Anchorage. I will get off the Nordam in Anchorage and take transportation down to the hotel we're staying in. And the next day, amigo John is flying into Anchorage. And he and I are going to do a couple days in Anchorage and then get on the Sapphire Princess for my hosted cruise back to Vancouver. So I'll be hosting that one for Nate, not for Cruises, Passion for Cruises USA Solos. I am, of course, doing the December cruise for them. And hopefully cruises next year. I've told them, you want a hosted cruise a month, I'm your guy. I'll be happy to do that. Come on with them. So, yeah, I really like doing the hosted cruises. Mike says, Katie, put your name on the list for Captain Hudson's too. Emma then will notify you when you can order. Yeah, that was a quite successful promotion that Emma did, and I didn't get one. So yeah, I need to add a Captain Hudson to my collection of things as well. All right, guys, that's going to wrap me up for today. Of course, I'll be back the same time tomorrow for more of this fun and frivolity. It was nice to have a busy news day for a change. Quite a few stories today, plus, a couple things to do on the outside. So that was cool. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up today's program. See you again tomorrow at 11 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time. And of course, I will be doing the hosted solo cruise meet and greet episode number 2 on Friday night at 6 o'clock. So keep that in mind. So anybody that may be interested in hosted solos, you can let me know. So, all right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for today. As always, stay safe, stay healthy, think about cruising, and hopefully one day soon we'll all get together on the high seas. Have a fantastic day, everybody. See you tomorrow.
I regularly post videos on all facets of the travel and cruise industry, so if you like to keep up with the latest in cruise ships, ports of call, cruises themselves, Chillie chats, and travel and cruise industry news, just hit the little subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner, hit the bell notification so you'll be notified when a new video is up or we go live. This video was produced by Chillie's Cruises.